So the very first thing when you get to Fiscal AI is you have the company overview, which is useful in many ways. For our purposes, when I get here and I see these valuation metrics, just from doing this a long time, I think, wow, these are really, really low. So, quick glance to uh, to help you see that. Uh, and I see here that they have $2.16 billion in net debt. So that's basically after you subtract the cash, that's the amount of debt they have on their balance sheet, which is why the enterprise value is $2 billion more than the market cap. Because if you were to buy this company, you would need to also take on the debt. And that matters because there's some debate about should PayPal be paying down its debt or doing something else with the money it's making. I'll talk about that in a second. But over here, I also like this because I could type in some of Badger's competition, the enemy, Wise, and let's put Adyen in here. And just like that, I have a nice comparison of the performance of the stock over 5 years. And so it's a good visual. It's one of these, one of 100 puzzle pieces. But if I'm investing in PayPal and I see it's down 66%, whereas its competitors are up in the, similar time frame, I got to have a very good reason why I'm going to allocate my bananas now to seemingly the worst company, right?
And let me just
But
jump in there because a lot of beginner investors would look at that and they would go, oh, I should buy PayPal because it's down, it's going to come back. And like I should be bearish on Wise and Adyen because they're up when actually they're all down. And they're, up in comparison because that kind of assumes reversion to the mean. And that ain't how the world works. Usually things are down because they're in a bad place and they're executing poorly. And if you're executing poorly, unless you take really material actions to turn that around, like it's just going to get worse.
yeah, exactly. So please don't let me confuse you when I say this is one piece of 1,000 pieces. But I'm starting to look at this from the question, is PayPal undervalued or is it a value trap? And here this shows me, oh yeah, it's there's a good reason to think that it's underperforming. And usually you want to add to your winners. And in this case, obviously PayPal has not been winning. It's also very easy to switch this to something like market cap, where you could see relative to one another the size of these companies. And as soon as I switch that, I see that PayPal is over 7 times the size of Wise and about not quite twice as big as Adyen, but it's definitely the big behemoth in the space. So that's also noteworthy. Anyway,
You got
this
some,
is the
you got some mixed currencies there, but directionally, that's right.
yeah. Oh, right, because this is euros and this is pounds, right? But it's still directionally correct. Yeah. Okay. Um, anyway, it's a great overview. But then I click over to the financials, and this is where Fiscal AI really shines. And this is what I meant by my previous comment. What are they doing with their cash flow? And here, this is one of the most compelling metrics that I've seen about PayPal, because you could see that while their market cap has basically plummeted since the highs and it's kind of traded sideways for now many years, during this time, the shares outstanding have been precipitously dropping. And this is one of these data points that tells me management is confident. Management themselves, the insiders themselves, are confident that the shares are undervalued and it's a better use of their money to take off shares from the table than to pay down the debt. And this kind of steep curve is actually quite rare in my experience, where the market cap really goes sideways and then you could see the rate of change is just vastly different. This crossing doesn't mean anything exactly, but in all the years doing this, I know a stock could remain undervalued and this spring-like thing keeps compressing and compressing until like overnight, seemingly it pops. I remember this happening bad with Microsoft, with Activision, where, I was looking at the finances and it's like, why isn't this going up? Eventually, if the thesis is right, it does. Um, and so last point that I want to show, I'm just going through these tabs here. You get to investor relations, and they have compiled all in one space all the latest info. This is the stuff where you're really digging in the weeds. And Alex Chris is this hotshot CEO that took over from the previous management team that were vastly underperforming. And I'm scrolling, reading, and bam, I get this quote on pay with Venmo. We're seeing 45% plus growth with pay with Venmo. I think we're just getting started in terms of merchant adoption and really igniting consumer there. With buy now, pay later, we're growing greater than 20%, so on and so forth. And the whole, at this point, I'm many, many, many hours deep in research. I could tell you that the thesis statement on PayPal, or the bear statement, is, so, okay, it's this big, massive company, but they're no longer growing. So it's more likely a value trap from the bear perspective. But when the CEO gives me numbers like this, which in theory, even if they didn't grow with all the share buybacks, that could still make for a good investment from these cheap levels. But when I'm seeing these double-digit growth numbers in some categories, not all, but they're also expanding in vast number of categories, all of a sudden I'm getting a very clear picture that this is where I need to do more work and look very, very carefully, because I smell a serious opportunity coming. So that's just like a quick example of, a very nice workflow of how I use Fiscal AI, and there's just so much more here that, we're not even scratching the surface of, but it's just easy, right? That's, I think, what makes this tool great. It's easy. It's all right there for you. One screen, one platform, and these visuals, maybe last comment, if I go back to the financials without overdoing it, what I love about a picture like this is it's two data points. It's not complicated, and it tells a very powerful story, which is what visuals are intended to do. So,
Good job. Very good. We're going to start using Fiscal.ai more regularly on the podcast, live, like Christoph just did. And if you want to sign up and check it out yourself, go check out fiscal.ai/wildlife for a handsome discount.
amen. And it just occurred to me, Badge, for better or worse, I smell another bet, Wall Street Wildlife bet cooking, because we have two. We have the annual, who wins the year's return and the king of the jungle. We also have the Axon versus EOS bet, which ain't looking too hot for you today, unfortunately, after EOS popped another 25%. And actually, EOS has now joined Rocket Lab in my first 10x, our second Wall Street Wildlife 10x. So, but the next bet, obviously, is going to be, if my research validates what I think I'm seeing with PayPal, I'm going to push PayPal chips all in, and you get to pick Wise or one of your other fintechs, and we'll go head to head in something like that. So I'll give you some time to prep, to think it through, but that's what I'm smelling.
All right. I like it. Yeah, I'm down for that bet. That'll be fun. And we do have another bet as well, and it's not going to settle for another 2 weeks. I bet that your overall portfolio would be up more than 500% in year 2 of the King of the Jungle. We've got a bottle of vintage rum on that. How am I looking?
How is it, side note, how is it that every time you and I bet, it seems like I win, but you get the like those EOS calls right now that you as a loser are now up whatever.
Well, let's park on that, right? Because we had a bet on something else, I forget, and the loser had to pick like $1,000 option for the other, or like a stock, an investment for the other. And I lost that bet, forget what it was. And you told me I had to spend my $1,000 on an EOS call option. And yeah, good job. It's worth $5,000 now. I'll take that.
Yes. And I'm the one buying you the rum. That's what I'm saying. This world, it's a fixed game. It's a rigged game, Badge. Uh, to your point, this is nuts, man. Last November 24th, after year one of King of the Jungle, Monkey's portfolio was at a underwhelming 1,600 bananas as of our